Welcome to Shifting from Grudge to Grit, Grace, and Gratitude. Another Friday, another episode. I think we're on our 66th episode. I can't believe it. And our topic today is getting cozy with change. And we want to welcome back Jamila, who I have such admiration for because she's only had a couple of hours sleep, paddles, fast, all of the above in one. So lots of respect to Jamila. Joan, respect to you for being here at the crack of dawn. What's the time there on your side? Where are you from, by the way?
I'm from San Diego, California, and the time here is 6:30 a.m. So
okay,
we have our coffee at the ready, and we're just happy to be hanging out with you in South Africa. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for spending this hour with us, especially at 6:30 in the morning. At least you're certainly getting your day started off the right way, because I can imagine we're going to have some great conversation. And thank you, Anissa, for that lovely, lovely, warm welcome. And I have to say likewise, and hats off to you. And looking forward to today's podcast. So welcome, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you.
So let me give a short introduction. I mean, yes, we're talking about getting cozy with change. And as we know, change is the one constant and it's inevitable in our lives. But what if we could embrace it with curiosity instead of trepidation? So today, whether you're navigating a career change, a major life-defining transition, or simply looking to embrace change with more confidence, you're in for a treat with Joan. By the way, I just found out she also just moved 2 months ago, and I have short of a month and a half ago. So that was a big life-defining change for both of us. Joan Russell is a change coach and transformation strategist who helps individuals and organizations navigate life and work transitions to unlock growth, achieve goals, and thrive with clarity, resilience, and purpose. With years of experience in corporate leadership, I'd love to hear more about where that was, and coaching. Joan combines practical strategies with tools like Enneagram, one of my favorites, life design, and mindfulness to create actionable plans for success. Her mission is to empower others to embrace change as an opportunity for transformation and step confidently into their new chapter. So, as you know, when you first signed up for this, it was all around that call to adventure, the hero's journey. And this sounds like it was that call to adventure and that got you to the point of navigating and embracing change as boldly as you have, that you are now serving others in this realm. So without further ado, please do share with us where this journey started, what your corporate career was. We're very intrigued to know more.
Thank you, Anissa, and thank you, Jamila, for having me here. I am so excited to be able to share about turning change into opportunity and getting cozy with it. But like you said, my hero's journey, wow, it's been something. And I don't even know where to start because I've had so many of them in my life. It seems that I've been born to change. It's part of my human design, and it's something that is ongoing and constant, not just with me, but with the world at large. But for me, it seems like it's a little bit more than others for some reason. Can't even explain that sometimes. Let's see, I'll go with my latest one, which is the one that helped me start my business. Back in 2020, during the pandemic, the company that I worked for, we could work remotely. So I decided to move from where I lived. And I lived up in Orange County, California. Now I live in San Diego, California. And a week after I moved down to San Diego, California, I had a problem with my eye. It was a detached retina. Had to go to the doctor for it, had to have a procedure, and I knew nobody here in San Diego. I knew maybe 2 people. Detached retina, had a procedure for it, had another procedure for it, and then I had an allergic reaction to some medication, which caused a systemic reaction in my body. And that then caused intestinal issues and infections. And after a string of issues with doctors and medical, having gone to the ER 10 times, having gone to urgent care 10 times, I wound up having to leave the medical system entirely and go to a doctor who was a concierge doctor outside of the system here in the US. Because I'd been misdiagnosed so badly that they said, we can't help you. You need hypnotherapy. And I was like, but I've lost 45 pounds and I feel like I'm almost dying. Well, it turned out I was almost dying. I had something called C. diff, which is a superbug, and it has to be eradicated. And it was only through getting outside of the medical system and working with this concierge doctor that was discovered. So I almost died. They wound up having to do a couple of fecal microbiota transplants on me. And today I'm back to where I was before, probably even better than I was. But during that time, I had a radical change because I knew nobody here in San Diego. My dark hair turned to white because you can't have your hair done when it's the pandemic and you can't go anyplace. So I had this huge identity change and this huge change realizing that community is so important in this world. So I wound up deciding to, number one, get into community more. So I started up a couple of meetup groups. After going to meet up a couple of times and seeing that there wasn't anything out there that I wanted, I started my own called Adventures in San Diego. And now it has over 2,500 people in it. And then after that, I decided to start my business. I had already been a coach with corporate and decided to do it for a business. So I started my business called Intuitive North. And it's just been a heck of a ride with going from, wow, I'm almost dying to, this is fantastic. I get to do what I want, where I want, and I'm just learning and growing and changing. And that's where the changing comes in, because there were so many changes that have happened to me through that time and through subsequent times since.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it's change isn't something that's easy
Joan, I mean, sorry,
go ahead,
I realized we both went to go for it, Jamila.
Now, just saying that change isn't something that, most of us are very agreeable to or find it very easy. And I just wanted to find out from you if you could just go a little bit further back into who you are as a person, Joan, and what type of personality did you have? Because for me, I was someone who was completely out of my comfort zone if there was any little change to be made. So that's my personality type. But then fast forward to after I got divorced and I had to literally become friends with change. And that's a process in itself that so maybe you can share with us who you were before then, and bringing you up to the time where, you went through all of these really terrible experiences, and having almost lost your life, and just give us a little bit of history on that part.
Absolutely. I was diagnosed years ago with generalized anxiety disorder. So I can be a very anxious person, and throughout that whole process, I had a therapist on speed dial. I had no idea what was happening to me or to my body. And before that, even in college, I was always overly anxious, where if something went wrong, I would go and hide in a corner and wouldn't want to have anything to do with it. Change was always felt impossible and something that was just out to get me, that I would take personally, because it's like, oh, nobody else ever has to do these things. Why me? And that's just not the way that's healthy, that's useful, and that keeps you grounded. When you are in that space where the why me space with change, and your head is spinning and you have so much stress, that's where your central nervous system kicks in, and you have so many things that are going wrong with your body at that point in time. It can help cause everything from indigestion to nervous system dysregulation. So acceptance of change is so important and so key, but hardly anybody finds it easy to accept change in any way, shape, or form.
Anissa, I think you might be on mute.
Okay, I'm here.
Yes.
Well, there's somebody that's saying, you are the best, Joan. Samantha, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story. So that's someone on your
Thank you,
contact
Sam.
list.
Yep. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. And you are the best.
And so grateful she's joining us. I mean, if she's on your side of the world, that means she got up 6:30 to be here. So
she was here in San Diego. Yep. And I don't even know why you're awake.
Well, it's because she thinks you're the best, Joan.
Yes.
That would be her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So welcome,
just
Samantha.
To come back to your story, Joan, and to the theme around fear that comes with change. And I think we all, at any given stage in our life, more than once, multiple times, have been there. And so it's not easy to take the leap and accept that call to adventure, as we call it, because it doesn't feel like an adventure. It feels like you're going into the abyss. You are actually going in to die a metaphorical death, and you nearly died physically. I see Samantha saying yes. The story is incredible. Happy to be here. We are going to delve into some more. We can't wait too, because I want to hear more. So, when you in this very difficult phase of nearly dying, actually, not just metaphorically, and then metaphorically feeling that sense of spiritual death, all of the above is happening. It is very difficult to see those gifts and opportunities that you now are able to see, and what was cultivated as a catalyst because of the difficulty, the challenges, the obstacle, all the roadblocks that seems to be the roadblocks in that moment. You can't find the gifts and see the light. What was your way of being able to navigate and be in this mud, but find a way through it?
That is the question. And I think every single person finds it different. So I was in this complete stress spiral because I was dying. And I have no idea where I heard this, but somebody said the words to me, and I'm probably going to remember them wrong, but are you running away from death or running towards life? And I realized I was running away from death. And that made all the difference. I was like, wait, so I'm running away from something instead of towards something? Running towards life gives so much more. If you're running away from death, you're just running away from one thing. But if you're running towards life, you're running towards an entire universe of possibility and ways that it could be different from where you are today. And it just bringing in that space of possibility changes everything when it comes to change. Because whether you are looking to change your weight or change your job, that's one piece of it. But what's the rest of the piece? Think about that for a second. What's the rest? What is the possibility? The possibility is infinite. And then when you think about that possibility and you discover the direction that you want to go in, taking action towards it is what helps to create that change. Without friction, there is no growth. You need to have that friction there. And with that, and the understanding that you have this friction and that understanding that possibility is everywhere, that's what creates growth. That's my take on it anyway, at 6:30 a.m. San Diego time.
Absolutely agree with you, because we're so fearful also of failure, aren't we? And that almost puts a stop to us in wanting to attempt to change, in wanting to try new things. So how do we get over that fear? The fear of failure, the fear of the change. How do we get over? What types of tools do we have that we can put into place to help us along to make that transition?
Another excellent question. I don't know where you're getting these questions from, but they're so good. My number one tool is mindfulness. And that is just being aware of where your mind is in the present moment. Especially when you're undergoing changes and things that are outside of the norm, your brain hates uncertainty. That is the number one thing the brain hates more than anything else, because the brain always wants to try and keep you safe. So, and this goes back to, caveman times. So when things are uncertain and you think that there may be somebody trying to kick you out of the tribe or a saber-toothed tiger around the corner, in today's modern world, that's things such as, unfriending somebody or, losing your job. So those equivalents, being mindful of how you're thinking and the stories that your brain is telling you and centering yourself against those is really, really the number one practice I use. I do like 10 minutes of meditation every day just to center myself. And it helps to keep you more regulated from having the ups and downs of all the emotions that you normally have. And then the second thing for me is to get curious about it. What is this change saying? What exactly is it that you would want to do instead of what your terror or your fear is telling you to do? So those are a couple of ways that I think of it, getting curious with change and how this may help you to realign your life. Think about back to when you were 16, for example. Do you want to be a 16-year-old again? And having all that insecurity and, worrying about, oh, what do people think about me and all of that? No, nobody wants to do that. And we're all over the age of 30. Would you want to be 30 again and experiencing that as well, rather than having all the lessons that you lived and where you are today? No, you wouldn't want to. So what change is doing for you is realigning you with who you are now and what your values are now. And getting curious and cozy with it and just getting into, why is this change happening? It's not personal. It's not out to get you. It's trying to realign you with who you really are now.
I absolutely love that. I love it because, getting cozy with it is such a beautiful way to describe it, right? Because we would generally not get cozy with it. We would be overwhelmed, anxious, and all the feelings that sends us into overdrive. But getting cozy with it is really being operating from a place of being and non-attachment and being okay and knowing that whatever the outcome is, it doesn't matter because it's for the greater good of your expansion and it's elevating your level of consciousness and bringing some of the unconscious into the consciousness, because maybe there were things then in that identity that you alluded to earlier that we were not even aware is a disservice to us. And I think you and I briefly touched on being a perfectionist as an example, or being a people pleaser, and all of those behavioral traits that could have come from a place of survival and just no longer serves us, and stuff that maybe makes us feel comfortable and yet is not for the greater good of our expansion. How does one identify that when you, for lack of a better word, may not be as awake? Is the change and the signs of change something to consider, that's how you need to know that you are close to a breakthrough and not a breakdown?
Who, you know, every person is different in all of this regard, because some people are going to be paying attention to the signs and be aware of it. And some people aren't at all. And at the same time, we're all going through a process here. Change is a process. And once again, change creates friction, which creates growth. And sometimes you don't pay attention to it and you get pushed off a cliff, basically. Think about, for example, somebody is diagnosed with a medical condition, diabetes as an example. And the doctor tells you, you need to change your diet, you need to do all of these things. And a lot of people push back on that. And oh my gosh, we have a cat. Amazing. Thank you for sharing your cat. See, that's my favorite thing about these. Sorry, I am like a squirrel sometimes with the whole, hey, attention, kitty. Okay, sorry. So you're diagnosed with diabetes. You need to change your diet. You need to take better care of yourself. And what happens if you don't do that? You get pushed off of a literal cliff, which is, you know, you wind up getting sick. You wind up having a medical emergency. It gets worse. So if by not paying attention to those earlier signs of change and getting into action and doing something about it, that has created a bigger problem and bigger friction. So if change needs to happen, it's going to find a way to happen. It's just kind of a fact. So through that mindfulness and through knowing yourself, that helps you be able to identify, hey, this is happening. This is coming. Maybe I should, try and prepare for it. Otherwise, you get pushed off the cliff, and as you're on your way screaming down off the cliff, you're like, why me? Why is this happening to me? And that's when the fear and the trepidation and everything comes in, and that makes it a longer process. It makes it harder to do that. So having that awareness beforehand is amazing. And the thing about change is the more you go through it, the more reps you get in. It's kind of like working out. The more often you experience change, the sooner you see it coming. And the quicker you can actually process through it. So when you have those big changes, they're big lessons in life. And I think I lost the track of the rest of the question because, Kitty, sorry, what was the rest of it?
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Share the baby. What's the name?
Peanut.
Peanut.
Peanut. When we got him, he looked like a tiny little peanut, and so the name just stuck.
Aww. The cutest. Aww. Thank you. Oh, perfect timing. Right back. Hi, Peanut.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just on your comments there, I think that the more you go through change, the more you get to understand who you are as a person as well. And I found that with me, when I was just, going through the motions of it and the why me phase and whatnot, I really didn't know myself well at all. So when you talk about being in that state of mindfulness and practicing mindfulness, it's an excellent way of going inward and actually unpacking who you are as a person and getting to that space of confidence. Because I suffered for many, many years, like right through my childhood, I would say right up until my 30s or 40s, with that feeling of, I'm not good enough, imposter syndrome. I had no confidence in myself. But until I start and change for me was like, gosh, it was the worst thing that it was the worst punishment that anyone could put upon me. But as you progress and as you start to do the work and the inner work, and you find out who you are, and you get to a space where you are in acceptance of who you are, but not only in acceptance, but in awe of who you are, in realizing that comes that confidence. And with that self-confidence, the change becomes easier, and you start to look at it from a different perspective as something that's teaching you, something that's pushing you towards success, rather than looking at it as, devastating or something that's you could view as a punishment, because you're so used to being in that comfort zone and accepting whichever position you were in. But like I said, the more you get to know yourself, the more you get to understand and accept who you are and celebrate that, the easier it becomes with the confidence that you then have within yourself.
I love what you said about being in awe of yourself, because that is just so true. I mean, we're all here, and just being here right now is a miracle in and of itself. There are so many things happening in the world right now, not just in South Africa or the US, but globally as well. And so many people are just so upset by all of it. And at the same time, what a beautiful, magical time to be alive and to trust in ourselves that no matter what, we're going to be able to handle it. And not just handle it, but be able to grow through it at the same time.
Yeah.
I just love how you put that. You're absolutely right. Loving yourself is the key to all of this, and trusting in yourself as well. And how many times do we not trust ourselves?
Too many.
Yeah.
I before I go into responding to that, because there was quite a lot of gems in what you both have shared there, I'd love to just read some of the other comments. Hello from Toronto. Ashiv is also a regular, all the way from Canada. Community and unity can be quite empowering in moving humanity forward together and at an individual level. We all go through stuff. Then we have somebody on Instagram, Nuliswa. She said, "Thank you, Coach. It's lovely." In other words, really happy for your sharings. Ronald, also in the US, a regular, has been our supporter from the beginning and still is every week when he can. He says hi. And then I think this just reframes it, what everybody was just talking about earlier, but metaphorically, we are invincible when we are feeling fine within. And I think that's what you were saying earlier on, is that embracing of the change. And Ronald says, "Nice, Kitty. My wife is watching a cat video beside me." There aren't any other comments anymore, so I'm going to go back to having our chat. And really, for me, what I picked up on earlier is that inner peace and serenity and tranquility, and building that home from within, that no matter what change happens, if you're physically moving to a new home, a new career, a new relationship, your internal home is so robust that it doesn't actually matter what change comes forward. And I feel that for me has personally shifted me into, I call it the triple S effect, sweet, soft surrender. And if we can get to sweet, soft surrender, I feel that actually that invincible comment that Ashif made, that we actually are quite invincible beings, because as you stated, Joan, the world over is in chaos. But if your internal home is tranquil, you don't see and feel that. You're observing, you're quietly observing, but you're not being impacted by it. And again, it's not something that can just happen. We cultivate that. And we cultivate that through what Jamila said earlier on, through an acceptance. What are other ways to start cultivating that, Joan? It seems like this is your area of expertise as a subject matter expert. When do we know we are cultivating this inner tranquility inside of us? Yes, I want to challenge this mindfulness thing and meditation, because we can do meditation and our minds are still in the monkey mind and in chaos. We can do breath work and yet we are still sitting in trauma. What are the ways that without symbolically or metaphorically having to do something, we can cultivate this? Are there possibilities, Joan, and can you share that with us?
There are so many different ways to cultivate a calmer life in general. At the same time, change is not going away. It's always going to keep happening. Some of the ways that I work with my clients on this, by helping you get to know yourself and how you react better. We talked a little bit earlier about, some of the other modalities I use, such as the Enneagram and life design, human design, things like that. And I feel like actually getting to know yourself and who you are and what your triggers are can also help you with this and make you more aware of the ways that you react. Enneagram is an excellent one because that actually helps you dig very, very deep into who you are and how you react and what are the things that work for you. Learning the directions that you enjoy going in and doing things that you actually enjoy in that direction rather than doing things that you don't like and you're conditioned to do. We haven't even talked about conditioning yet, because a lot of conditioning really, really hits us when we're young. I mean, from our parents, from our schools, from the way we're educated, from how we're taught. These are things that we automatically go and do without thought because we're rewarded for it in various different ways. But what if you decide to go off the beaten path and do something that you've always wanted to do? An example of this in my life was back when I was in high school and getting out of high school. I wanted to be in the music industry, but instead the direction that I was going in was as an accountant. So I was an accountant for a few years and I hated it. It was horrible, but that was the direction I was pointed in order to, be stable, make money, do what you're supposed to do, be a good girl. Instead, I always wanted to be in the music industry. I was a musician as a kid and I loved the industry. So I decided to ditch it all and go back to school and wound up getting a degree in entertainment management and business management. I knew nobody in the music industry. I had no idea what I was doing. I wound up moving down to LA to be an intern for a record label, and then wound up in some facet of the entertainment industry for over 20 years after that and had a wonderful career out of it. But is that the norm? No. And it's something that everyone went, oh my God, why are you doing this? How could you do this? You're going to fail. And my mother back then was just like, you're just going to be a horrible failure. It's never going to work out. So listening to yourself and your soul and the directions that you want to go in and changing on your own and being proactive in it, learning who you are and what you really want and just going in that direction and taking action instead of being a victim and having that victim mentality. That helps immensely with moving through change.
I love that. And it's also literally about not living through the fears of others, because we do get to, like, especially our parents or our colleagues or anything like that. And I had a similar experience as well when after I'd gotten divorced, I had a great job at our national broadcaster. And, for me at that time, I thought, this is my job that I'm going to have. It's going to give me security and stability, and I will be here until I can't work anymore. So for me, I thought that was now, I had hit the jackpot, because no matter what, I would be taken care of. There were lovely perks and commissions. And so, it was the safe option to go with, until I was given an opportunity by a client of mine to join him in his business. And it was completely different, because he was an entrepreneur and he was risky and disruptive and but exciting at the same time. And I remember speaking to colleagues of mine who were absolutely distraught at the thought of me even considering it. And they were like, no, you can't. I mean, there's not even a choice to make. How can you even consider this? But I did go with my gut feeling and went with that opportunity. And it reminds me of a quote which says, don't be afraid to give up on the good to go for the great. And unless you give yourself that opportunity, you will always remain within, for me, I feel, a mediocre lifestyle. And it's about taking the plunge. It's about taking the risk. It's about feeling and knowing and believing that you could be that disruptor to bring about the change in a great and positive way.
Wow. I couldn't agree with you more. I can't even talk about that because that's almost making me speechless with what you just said. It's going for the great instead of the good. Yes. Absolutely. Dreaming bigger. Earlier, I talked about that space of possibility. And it's just that entire field of possibility and being in it instead of being small and staying small and playing small. What else is there? And a lot of times we can't see what else is out there. I have somebody that one of my clients is very, very stuck in her job and, can't see beyond it because she feels like she needs to keep it right now because there's a lot of layoffs and things like that. And when we feel stuck for money, we're selling our soul in a way. And it's making it so that you're shrinking instead of taking up the space and being who you know that you are inside deeply, but you're just shoving it back down and saying, no, don't be that person.
Yes.
What happens if you let it go?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Joan. This is exactly your client and myself are exactly in that same zone or space within our lives right now. I shared on the segment before that one of my largest retainers as an independent entrepreneur and consultant and contractor ended in December, and Jamila has been walking this journey with me. I had to decide, am I going to go back into the employed formal environment? Mm-hmm. Because I need the means to the end, which is to pay an income, to have the security blanket, being the single mom, being the primary provider.
Yeah.
And a part of me, I felt this visceral feeling in my stomach, in the pits of my gut, that if I had to go back into corporate formal employment, it would be the death of my soul, right? Mm. But at the same time, I still have to put a roof over my head. I have to feed my kids. I have to see to all their economic needs, including my own, as well as my self-care. So I'm not undermining what your client is going through. And I almost want to reframe and say growing through, because it is the call to your next level of the growth trajectory your life takes on. And the moment I went into sweet, soft surrender, not the triple X factor, the triple S factor, I found that things were manifesting easier. I was no longer in the control of how am I going to figure out the next contract. I stayed in my truth, in what you were describing, Joan. When you know your truth, and you know your value and your worth, and you believe you're deserving of, it's no more needing to go and sell your soul, whether it is for formal work environments or to grow your own business. Because you can have the same being true, even if you don't go back to the formal environment, but you're running that business. Depending on your beliefs or that narrative or that whatever that canvas is painted with, if it's not the right picture, you're going to continue living in that story. So it does take a whole host of digging very deep within our souls. And I think that Ashif posted something earlier on. And I want to read that, because this is what it actually says. We carry inside us the wonders we seek outside of us. And that's by Rumi. When we journey within, we arrive home. Isn't that just so true?
That's beautiful. And Rumi always has the best. So good.
Powerful, powerful stuff. And then he also says, nice, Jamila, moving from good to great intentionally. This one stuck with me professionally and then personally. Being average keeps the average down. That is quite a powerful one, Jamila. And I really think that if you could add it to the, to the comments, it would be really great if you can, because it's quite an important one to know. How do we give up just the comfort zones to shift into something greater than ourselves, beyond our imagination?
Was that to Jamila?
Yes, I'm suggesting Jamila must type it in.
Yes, I will type the quote. I will type the quote into the comments. Yeah, it's just, such profound thoughts and advice that you are giving us. And I think it's also important to just touch on, on the conditioning that we go through as we progress in life. And it reminds me of this. I'll try and find that little picture, but I saw it this morning. One of my friends had posted it, and it was a picture of SpongeBob, and she had written above that 6 years old. And then she had a picture at 26 years old of this woman who was visibly just totally depressed and in a terrible state, and the picture was black and white. And then the next picture was a huge picture of SpongeBob again, and this was at 36 years old. So for me, that just spoke so much about your inner child, okay? And when we're young, nothing is impossible. We have the grandest of dreams and we feel that we can achieve it. And as we go through our schooling system and society and family, and we become so conditioned to believe that we can't, and this is the path that we should be following, the safe path. And once you start to do the work internally, and you get in touch again with that inner child. And it's so important for us to carry that, to carry the values, to carry the dreams, the aspirations that we had, because then we carry the belief that nothing truly is impossible. And we shift then into living not from a space of scarcity or fear or insecurity, but of abundance, which then for me allows you to embrace the change within those different versions of ourselves that we go through.
I couldn't agree with you more. And not just abundance, but authenticity as well. Living our bigger, more authentic lives. And going back to that taking up space piece. One of the things that I love to talk about is life is a game. You can either choose to play the game or you can choose to sit it out. And if you're sitting it out, then how are you living your life? Is that authentic to you? Is that something that you want to do? Do you want to stay on the sidelines, or do you want to get in and play? And by playing, that means creating communities and being a part of community and being connected to each other. We're all connected all together, but at the same time, those deeper connections and things that just make us feel alive. This does happen. I hate to say it, with age, it feels like, and more experience, and getting out of that conditioning and realizing that, hey, I was conditioned to begin with. because a lot of people don't realize that this is actually a thing.
Yeah. No, for sure. And when you say play the game, I get excited because, it goes to the inner child part. Just have fun and be in the space of wonderment. Yet there is something I want to ask, because do we play just to win? Are we okay to play to learn? And we are okay to play to lose along the way and take the lessons? Because often...
Yeah. All of it.
Because I'm thinking this idea of play is often just having fun and winning or achieving something. But what is it that this play needs to be? Because the context and the interpretation could be very different for everybody. Just in terms of my own lens, I didn't have a lot of play as a kid. In fact, as I got to my young adulthood, only then I started to play. And in fact, even now I'm playing more than I could ever have played. And as you say, it takes age to start playing more. But how do we just play in terms of with no agenda and just letting it be and being curious and being willing to just indulge in it all, no matter what plays out, to use the word play again?
I wish I knew the absolute secret to that, and I don't. It goes back to being comfortable with who you are and getting into that confidence piece as well. Being confident that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. Having that faith deep down inside that you are strong enough, you are good enough, and that you love yourself and others love you, and we're all one. It just, getting to that point is an amazing thing. And this is a lifetime's journey. This goes back to your hero's journey in a way. With you're here in this spot, you have a problem and you're working all the way through it. And eventually you get to where you're supposed to be and everything is wonderful. And then it begins again. The hero's journey never ends. It's just one small story in your life.
I think, Anissa, for me, how I would respond to that is, and I take this from my own personal journey as well, is I go back to the fact that I've never, ever felt good enough. I've never felt worthy enough. I never felt that I deserved enough. But I always dreamt that, it could have been me. It could have been me. And on working on myself, I don't know when it actually happened, because I know that every month would have been an issue and I would worry, especially when it came to finances. How am I going to, make ends meet? How am I going to have enough? Will I have enough? What's going to happen? And you have that feeling in your pit of your stomach, that anxiety when it reaches almost month end. And I don't know when the shift came or how the shift came, but I remember the belief, or when I had the belief that I deserved it all, and that my dreams were not just dreams, they were reality as long as I believed they were going to be reality. And when I started speaking to myself in that way, and I say it again, where I'm in that space of not of scarcity, where I let go of the fear and I trust not only in myself, but in a higher power, because I believe that I've been brought to this earth to enjoy everything that my heart desires, because I deserve it, as each of us deserves. When I started to believe that, it shifted my whole focus, and month end would come and month end would go, and I would never have that feeling in the pit of my stomach ever again. And for me, where the play comes in is in what I was focusing on. And I was focusing on my life coaching, and I was focusing on paddle, and I was focusing on the things that made me feel so connected to what my purpose was and what I truly enjoyed doing, that it never ever felt like it was work, but it felt like I was playing every day, because this is what, and automatically the money, the finances just flowed and followed with that, because there wasn't that sense of fear. There wasn't that trepidation that what's going to happen, because I was so focused on what I was meant to be doing, on what my purpose was. So for me, it's that shift. Which brings me to my next question, Joan. Is, sorry, Anissa, I found this later on in my life. And I look at my son and I want him to have that today. I want kids who are Anissa's age to have that at that age, so that they can truly, fully flourish and enjoy their lives from that age going on. How do we do this? How do we teach these tools to the younger generation so that they can go through life? And I know we all have our different parts, but this is where we can do our bit to help, so that someone else's life is better, or there are certain obstacles or hurdles that can be taken away for their path to be easier. What do we do? How do we educate them on that?
And that's an amazing question. I firmly believe for years that the educational system really needs to bring in things like meditation, mindfulness, and awareness, and talking about neuroscience and the ways that we talk and we speak and we think to ourselves. Because there are so many inputs that we get from outside that are impacting youth today, whereas we need to pay attention just as much to our internal life and making it rich and learning how to trust ourselves at the same time. I believe it starts with the educational system. I believe it starts with educating people in general about things that don't involve turning people into a good corporate wage slave. Let's just say it, capitalism begets capitalism. People are being taught to work hard for others instead of being true to themselves. And teaching people how to pay attention to those pings and those things that you're interested in, that you love doing, and actually finding a way to turn that into work, I think is a great way to start with that. The way that we're all made, and this is my belief, is that we all complement each other, and all of us together in one web of society will help each other out. There isn't too many people who can be accountants. There isn't too many people who can be coaches. There aren't too many people who can be teachers, for example. It's just the right amount. The only thing is that we're conditioned to believe that we can't do otherwise. So change that.
Yeah. Joan, you have something in your profile called life design. I have a feeling that this is what you're describing right now, and I may be wrong, around that whatever's in our blueprint is meant to be that way within our life design. Can you talk to us a little bit more about life design and the importance of understanding that, and what are ways to start navigating towards that? Because sometimes people feel it's taboo to go and do different modalities. I mean, I certainly know even in our Islamic faith, there may be certain things that are taboo to go and utilize it as a means to understand oneself, or to let it be the gospel, so to speak. But I really would want to know a little bit more about life design, and if it could be a tool and an enabler to have this blueprint to live life by design, to put it simply.
Life design is actually something that was created by two Stanford professors, and there's a book called Designing Your Life. And basically, what they did was they are design engineers. So they put it all together in a modality that you can utilize and go through and create what sorts of life you envision for yourself. There's also something called human design that I also work with, which is what I think you're talking about here, which is something that is a combination of the I Ching and gene keys and astrology. And what that does is it is a little bit on the esoteric side and a little bit more woo-woo, whereas designing your life is very, very much design and science-based. Two different things, highly recommend both. With human design, what it does is it's just the most bizarre thing to me is that you can actually use your birth date and your birth time and determine what kind of person you are, and it winds up being eerily complete. It can tell you if you are like a generator or a manifesting generator. It's a very, very interesting modality to use. Rather than explain it, I'd love for you to just explore it for yourself. There's a number of ways. I believe that mydesign.com is something that's run by Jenna Zoe. And it's something to check out. Just plug it in and play with it a little bit. It is a little bit outside of the realm of science. It's much more esoteric, but check it out. It's something that I use with my clients, and we found it to be eerily on point. Can't explain it. Not going to try.
Talk to me about your one that you're more actively using. I have dabbled into human design, and I also find it eerily accurate, and like I'm not feeling boxed in, so to speak, but I do feel like, wow, this is, along with Enneagram is the other one that I felt like, wow, this is the first assessment and analysis, psychometric or and there's so many of these things, but Enneagram is the one that I felt really drawn to, in the way that I also quite like human design. And yes, it is the more spiritual, esoteric stuff. Not everybody is going to connect with it, but it does ring true, a lot of it, you know. But I'd love to hear more about the life design one. So talk to us about your version.
I work, once again, it's done by, I can't remember their names. It's a couple of Stanford professors, and it's called Designing Your Life. They actually have a course on this. And there is this piece of it. And what it is it's actually, you can make 3 setups of the different lives that you want. You can make one life, the life that you think is going to be the one that you like the most. For me, I made one that said, it was my coaching career in San Diego. And this was before I even moved to San Diego. And it was what I wanted to do. I wanted to move to San Diego. I wanted to start my coaching business. I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. It's like a 5-year plan. And then the second one, you can put in the most far out thing that you want to do, which was having an Airbnb in New Mexico with a little bar. And it devolved into this whole thing. It was just like, after 2 years, it just went downhill from there. And I was like, no, that's not the life for me. And then the third one that I put in was something else that I'd always thought of doing, but never wound up actually doing it. And it helps you kind of pre-plan and try out these different lives or these different careers that you want for the next 5 years, and just using your imagination, and once again, that whole world of possibility, to see if any of them can be a reality for you. I found it to be also very, very useful for my clients, and I can send you a link to that, so that way you can put it in the show notes. And it's something that you can access online and just play with. And it goes back to that play piece as well.
I love that, Joan, because it sounds like you're taking clients on a journey and a visualization into some form of an affirmation that it's already there and it's accessible. Because if you can access it through imagination, just imagine what is possible then. So you're almost getting them into that energetic rhythm and vibrational energy to feel through what it could look like. That's beautiful. Please do share it with us. Jamila,
I'll be
any
happy
last
to.
questions to Joan?
No, just when will you come back?
Whenever.
There's so much that we haven't touched on yet.
Whenever you want. Just let me know. I'm always up for a good chat.
Joan, is there any gems
a lot
you
more
want to
that
leave us with?
we would love to, we would love to chat more to you about, obviously. And we're just grateful for, the valuable information, the tools and the insights that you've left us with. And hoping that our audience has felt the same way and has made them a little bit less afraid of, dipping their toe into that pond of change going forward.
Thank you both so much for having me. This has been a wonderful conversation. And like you said, a great way to start the day. Wow, all of the Rumi quotes. I mean, just check out Rumi, people. Just do it. I'm trying to remember my most favorite quote from him right now. And it's something I tell myself every single day is what I seek is seeking me.
Yes. Goosebumps. Do stay with us, Joan, on the live. We will end the live now, but we normally do a short debrief with our amazing guests. Thank you for those that have joined us, that have engaged, and those that will watch the replay too. We appreciate your presence here, as well as your wisdom shared. And if you do ever want to be in studio with us, please let us know. And Jamila put a challenge out the last time. If we're in a live and you're really feeling drawn to this conversation, let us know. We can send you privately the StreamYard link and you can jump in on this conversation. So until next week, we'll see you again. And we're really grateful for your support. And next time round, we'll see you Friday. Jamila, your side?
Yeah, looking forward to it. And we'll have another exciting guest on next week. And we do encourage you, please, just get on the live with us. The more people that we have engaging, the better it is, because we all, at the end of the day, just here to help each other along. And your story could help someone tremendously. So come on, share with us and be a part of the podcast. So Joan, thank you once again. We really, really appreciate that you've come through, been ready so early in the morning, and shared your time with us.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful long weekend.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, I'll end the stream.